But I also want to tell you what to expect today. So maybe you came here wondering if I could fix your D2L for you. And I can, but probably not today. What we're going to do today is talk about some high-level design, actually mapping your course, thinking about how your course, you literally want it to look. And the reason we want to start there is because when we have a plan going into it, you can bring those kinds of issues and say, this is my plan, this is my curriculum map, to people like myself and the consultants at Learn at UW, and we can walk you through step by step how to put it together. So if you come with a plan, you come with an idea, we can work with you. If we can work with you if you don't come with an idea too. But it makes it a little more succinct, and it makes us understand what our goals are as consultants and your goals as instructors or course designers. So we're going to start with that today. So you probably noticed up here that learning management systems irritate me. 3 years ago when I got to campus, I was assigned a D2L. I work with D2L all day long, along with other teaching things. And there was something about it that just irked me. I could not figure it out. I couldn't figure out what was bothering me about this learning management system so much. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that the learning management system is not a teaching system. It went against everything I knew, because my background is in teaching and cognitive science, everything I knew about how you put things together. You contextualize information. You make it a hierarchy out of it. You give it your own spin, you give it your own flavor, and the learning management system out of the box doesn't really let you do that. So what I realized was missing from the learning management system was, it was great for doing this, having this information pile, maybe just a kind of like not even a library, just information, links to information. But as teachers, what we're trying to do is this: take that information and draw the connections and make lines and help our students make connections, help them understand the discipline or the content the way we as instructors, as professionals in that field understand it. And the learning management system right out of the box isn't meant to do that. So I spent a lot of time researching, how do we do that? I took my background in information science and my background in cognitive science, and I started looking and saying, how do we take what I understand about people's interactions with information and put that online in a way that makes sense? And I came across and spent a lot of time researching a field called user experience or user experience design. And what that is a field devoted to designing online spaces around the user first and the content second. So it's a field of study where we study how content is organized, how users get around, and how the psychology of how the users react to the look and feel. And if you're a teacher in a classroom and you've been doing that for a while, you're already doing that in your head, and you're in front of a class and you're thinking how content's organized, how am I going to move from topic to topic, how am I going to get feedback from the students to see that they're understanding the look and the feel of it. But online, since we're not looking at our students, how do we recreate that experience? So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. But before we do that, I want to go over the field of user experience. And I've got a little slideshow for you. If you've seen me do this before, you might remember it, but I kind of like it. It makes me giggle. So user experience is this fancy digital word that is kind of a big deal, but it isn't new, okay? Here we have an outhouse. This is an example of something that's designed around the content first, user second. Obviously, a bathroom like this is a much better experience. And the reason that we have gone from an outhouse to something like this and designing our spaces that we use for hygiene, which is kind of not a very nice part of our lives, but the reason we spent so much time doing this is that user experience. It's capturing something, capturing that comfortability, capturing what we want out of our experience. Here's a piece of content. It's a side salad. You can experience that piece of content in your classic school basement cafeteria, or you could experience it here. And I wonder if it would taste better. I don't know. It still has the same taste and basic ingredients, but putting it in a different context and contextualizing it, does that improve our experience? I know if I was eating that side salad there and having that wine with it, I'd be really happy. So it extends into education too. This is a picture of an old anatomy lab where an anatomy professor would perform a autopsy, or I guess it's well, not an autopsy because they're not, well, yeah, dissection, thank you. And all these, it was mostly men, would look over the side to see, and they'd all crowd around, and they didn't get their hands-on experience. And I know that I have wonderful doctors, but if they had gone to a anatomy school like this and were surgeons from this anatomy school, I might think twice. Instead, we know education has changed to recognize that it's really important to get our hands dirty, to get the students' hands dirty, to get them experiencing, and to get them doing and being active learners. How do we do that online? That all comes back to that course design. So let's take a look at how it's impacted our, so user experience design is a digital field, and so we kind of look at how folks are designing web pages and designing our experience online, and something that's very interactive. This is Amazon. I trusted enough, probably shouldn't say that, I trusted enough to put my credit card information in here. And then they had that little button called One Click. Oh my gosh, my husband's so mad at me. He's like, really? I'm like, did you even look at what you're buying? Not really, no, it's very interactive. So I trust this site enough, I trust my experience with it, I trust its user design well enough to leave credit card information on it. And I know millions of other people do. This is Amazon from 1994. If it still looked like that, and I feel like learning management systems kind of have that thing going on with them, if it still looked like that, I would not trust it. I would want to get away from this site as fast as I could, and I certainly wouldn't want to be spending my money on it or interacting with it any longer than I could. In 1994, that was acceptable, it was brand new, it was groundbreaking. In 2015, not so much. Unfortunately, learning management systems, we've got Moodle in the front, and we've got DTool in the back, which is what we'll be focusing on today, haven't really gotten much better in the terms of user experience. They haven't really gotten the psychology of the user. They continue to be management systems rather than teaching systems. And my goal, as soon as I got on this campus and started working with D2L, was figuring out how to take that management system, push it to its limits, and see how we could make it more friendly, more teaching friendly with curriculum design. So, here are my tips and tricks, and I only have 10-15 minutes, and that's why I'm rushing through this, but don't worry, I have my cards in the back so we can go over it too. Take the time to explicitly map out what you want to teach, and you don't have to take notes if you don't want to, because we'll have this up online too. What you want to teach, when you want to teach it, and how the topics connect to each other. And when I mean explicitly, I'm a real big fan of curriculum mapping actually using mind maps. And there's a method to my madness. We can outline courses and things like that, written, have your hierarchy and do your regular lesson plans. But when we do it like this and we actually make these lines explicit, you can bring that to an instructional designer, or you can be an instructional designer yourself. Those don't just represent lines and abstract connections between the information, they represent actual connections that we're going to be making online. They represent concrete links or concrete organizational structures. So this is kind of a course design here, where we've got some big ideas at the top. We've got the main topics here along the top, and then the subtopics that will be covered within each of these basically modules, and then some examples down here. So that's broad course curriculum design, and that will come into play a little bit later. Then we've got our lesson level design, and I do that actually with my own lesson planning as well, where I have my learning objective. I know what knowledge I want them to acquire, I know what knowledge and how they're going to apply it. I map out what topics I want to teach, and then the methods I'm going to teach it with, or the experiences that they're going to have. And again, those lines are really important because they show how everything fits together contextually. They show how that module online in a learning management system should be put together. So that's tip number 1. So taking that, after you've mapped that out, you've taken your curriculum design, you design your homepage to reflect your curriculum design. So your homepage is the first thing students see. It's going to set the tone. It's going to help them understand how the big topics fit together, and it's going to help them understand where to go and when to go there. D2L has that content browser. If you're used to it, it's like folders, and then there's some sort of hierarchy and a lot of clicking that goes on. I like to make it a lot less clicky. This is a design, a chronological design. It's from Psychology 501, The Psychological Effects of the Internet. And I like this because the instructor, Morten Gernsbacher, who talked last spring at one of these, is a cognitive psychologist. And she is also a cognitive psychologist who's very focused in universal design, so designing for all types of learners. She wouldn't mind me sharing that she has a son who is autistic on the spectrum. He cannot speak, but he is brilliant, and he takes online classes. He teaches online classes, and that doesn't get in the way of his speaking disability. But when she designs thinking about people from all walks of life and people with all kinds of disabilities. So the way her screen looks is there's hardly anything on it. Here's what you need to do, and here's when you need to do it. Chronological, right down there. Those act as buttons, and you click there and you go right to a piece of content. This is just her fun little weekly internet thing, because it is psychology of the internet. But when you collapse that, there are just simple buttons: how to, syllabus, term projects, my grades, class list. That's it. Keep it simple. Figure out exactly what they need and don't add any more. This, there's a couple of people from Health and Safety, is a topical design that Jenna helped, and Tara Cordes and myself helped put this together. These are just widgets. They look fancier than they are. But what this class is they don't have to go in a certain order, I don't think, right? Well, you can pop around. You just have to get these things done. And they can do it at their own pace. So chronological doesn't matter. What matters is getting to the content right away. And what this did was take 3 classes and just make a homepage for them so they can go right to that content. They've got cage cleaning and autoclave, egg safety, animal contact safety. But we were able to do that because we mapped out the course and realized these things all fall under this topic. We don't need them in all these different places where people can't get to them. And this is a real simple design. It looks fancier than it is, but it's a real simple design that takes both of them together. It takes the chronological, the topic, and topically, and makes it simplistic. It gives the date. Each of these little buttons, they're not really buttons, they look like buttons, gives the date and what the topic's going to be. Now I really like this. I really like putting these things together because it does something, being able to do this in the LMS does something that we can't actually do in our classroom. It gives us a view of the whole thing. It gives us a view of how we as professionals and instructors and experts view the topic, the discipline. We can't necessarily make that concrete in a classroom, making that explicit. But every time a student sees that, they understand implicitly it's kind of going into them every time they see that. This is how this information fits together. Okay, so that's home pages, and that's based on course design, the top level course design. Lesson layouts are a little bit, we talked about a little bit more. But when you design a lesson, a page, let's call it, in D2L or in Google Docs that John's going to be talking about, your goal is to contextualize, sequence, and chunk content. And that sounds fancier than it is, but if you're used to looking at textbooks, you see it all the time. One thing to reconsider is that there have been studies about how we interact with text online, and that people read 25% slower online, and they don't actually read, they scan. And believe it or not, the more education you have, the more likely you are to not read and to scan. So folks who have gone, some of those PhDs in the room, they're so used to interacting with information, they scan for it. But if it's not laid out in a way that they can experience it, they're going to miss something. Students are going to do that too. So reconsider what you think of as text. I've got up here a little bit of text, a video, that's actually Sesame Street. One of these things is not like the other, because we contextualize as humans. And then a graphic. And I have it all tied together with just a little bit of text that contextualizes it. But it is college, and we do have to read. That's just how it goes. So we also say use inline navigation, and that sounds fancier than it is. It's really just links. So this is from that aesthetics course that had the nice purple boxes on the home page. She only had those little boxes linked to one page, and on that one page was everything that students needed to know. It contextualized it. It had links to the readings. It had links to the discussions and the slides lecture from this week, and then later on it actually has links to a short quiz that the students are supposed to take. It's right there. They don't have to go from tool to tool to tool. They just stay right in here. Yes?
I have a question about when this was created. Does then the instructor after class just put these together and, you know?
These are before class assignments, yep.
Okay.
But you could do it after class too, just to contextualize it. And that gives you a chance to like link one lesson to the next lesson to the next lesson, so there's some writing on there, but it also doesn't take you out of the tool. It doesn't take you out of the context. Students are experience it in the order in which it's supposed to be experienced in, and with the context around it. If students see, oh, I have to do a post, I have to do a paper, I have to do a Dropbox, they just go and do that. And they might miss the content and the contextualization you want them to get. So embedding the links in here kind of forces them to read the information whether they want to or not. And finally, it's so simple, but just use weighting and hierarchy. Again, we're scanners when we read online. It's different from books. So very simple things can help us scan and pay attention. Changing up the color, making the font size a little bigger, bold, classic bold, and then using a hierarchy. These are called ordered lists. You know them as, what are they called? Yes, thank you. Indentations, they show hierarchy, they are lists, and they really help scan and contextualize how the information fits together. I need a cookie. I got a little sugar low here going on. And then finally, don't forget about those lines on your curriculum and lesson map to make abstract connections explicit to the students. And talk about them, show them how things fit together. That's how they're going to make sense of your discipline. So here's what the next few minutes are going to be, 30 minutes, is that we're going to give you the opportunity to make a curriculum or lesson plan, sketch out ideas for a home page or layout, sketch out ideas for a lesson plan, check out the KB, which is, I'll show you here. You didn't load right, but I am in the process of redesigning and giving the KB some hierarchy and lesson designs. And we've got 2 that are in beta, and when you go, you'll see it looks way better than this. There's a button that says set up and design your homepage and build your course architecture and navigation. Those are live. Those give you step-by-step how-to. But if you're not that kind of person, my card's in the back too. So once you've got all these ideas ready to go, and don't limit yourself by the ideas. Once you get all the ideas ready to go, you grab my card, meet with one of us, or meet with us right here, and we'll walk you through it. If you're at another level where you want to take advantage of the consultants you have in the room right now to work on something too, feel free.
Can you show the link to that page?
Yeah,
sure.
What KB number is it?
It is, I don't know what my KB number is. Oh, 55741. You can also, I'm doing a little librarian work on it, so it's decimal numbers, 100.1. There's a reason Dewey Decimal's been around for a real long time.